Hi guys, I am back with a video. So, as you know, I told you guys that I was going to be doing segments talking about my thoughts, and I was going to be talking about some things that I normally don't talk about because I wanted to. It's going to be basically um, therapeutic for me, and then hopefully will help other people because uh, I've talked about it on my other channel, but I have not talked about it here because it's a brand new channel. But I wanted to branch off from my old channel or whatnot. But anyway, so what I wanted to talk about today is trauma, and I currently I have studied psychology, and I'm studying criminal justice, and I've worked in a domestic violence shelter on the side and things like that. I've mentored kids for many years. I've done a lot with the community. I've just done so much. But I have a lot of insight, and I have a lot of history doing a lot of this type of work. And I also have, unfortunately, I have personal history with some of this stuff. Not never had domestic violence, but I have personal history with trauma. So I want to just talk about, not so much get into that all of it today, but just talk about some of the stuff briefly, and just some of the things that I sometimes have thoughts about. So the first thing I want to talk about today is and bear with me because I kind of, it's a little difficult talking about it on camera. But first thing I want to talk about is when you're first, I've been in therapy, I've done the work, I've done that hard work. And if you have not gone to therapy, I was sexually abused as a child, and that for me was extremely difficult. And if you weren't sexually abused as a child, does not mean you can't watch this video and learn from it, because you may encounter someone in life that has been sexually abused as a child, and this video and some other videos that I'm going to do may help you be able to help them, or interact with them, because sexual abuse survivors, I'm not gonna call them victims. The law calls them victims, but when you go through it, we call ourselves survivors. Most of us, a lot of us, can go through day to day with no problems, but sometimes we have triggers and things like that that are just difficult. But I would suggest, for those who have not gone to therapy, to definitely go to therapy. It is such a life changer. You are doing yourself a great injustice if you do not go to therapy. Because let me tell you, I don't have a good relationship with my mother. I was adopted at about 3 years old, I think. And I was adopted into a family that, at first was very loving, great. I had a great time. It was everything. And then later in life, it turned bad. And I'll get into that later on. But, I was sexually abused from 12 to 16. And I was a very bubbly kid. So bubbly, outgoing, supposedly lit up a room. And then I changed. I just flip-flopped went into a shell. Don't want to talk. Leave me alone. beeline straight into my bedroom, close the door, lock it. Don't bother me. That type of thing. And other people saw changes in me, and different types of things. So you know and when you have to bottle those things up because you don't want people to know, you don't want people to ask you things. And when other people may feel like they have a hint that something is going on, and they may be picking up on that, and they seem like they're going to ask you something, and you try to change the subject, you try to just shy away from it, when you're young or whatever. But anyway, so when you get older or whatever, and you feel like all those things are coming down on you, it is definitely time to go to therapy. But I was told by my mom, when I told her I was going to therapy years ago, she said to me, well, what's the point of that? And she knew that I had been abused by her husband. Not my dad, but I told her that her husband had done that to me, and years ago. And when I told her that I was going to therapy, she just was like, for what? So those are the type of things, it's like you have trauma already that has happened to you, and then you get another level. And then not only do you get that layer, you get another layer because other things happen. So it's just like, well, when is it going to end? But you just realize that you just have to keep moving. And so you learn to keep on moving. So the trauma that I've incurred, that has happened to me, I'll tell you. So like I said, I have been sexually abused. Then when I told my mom about it, this is the story. I'll just tell you the story. How about that? So I was sexually abused from 12 to 16. I think I told my mom about it when I was 28. Had already moved out the house. Told her about it, and she seemed like she was mad about it. Not at me, at him. She seemed like she was screaming and yelling at him, blah, 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 whatever. She still stayed with him. Then after that, well, let's say this. So her and my adoptive father, so she's my adoptive mother and my adoptive father. My adoptive father passed away when I was 11. She remarried to her current husband, which is the molester, right when I turned 12, I believe. Or right before I turned 12, something like that. It's like 6 months after he died, basically. And it was a few weeks after that. And so before she married him, he was basically grooming me. And if you don't know what grooming means anything to attract or make a person feel easy with you or make you feel comfortable with them. So if this guy, they have to give you gifts, if they have to give you a bunch of compliments, if they have to, take your side of an argument, anything to make you feel like they're on your team or, they're all for you, they're going to do that. So anytime, if I had an attitude or my mom was telling me to do something and I didn't want to do it or whatever, oh, well, just let her go. Just let her have it. Just do it. Because I was an only child. So I was, was constantly that type of stuff. And so I knew immediately when I met him, I did not like him. And I told my mama, I don't like him. It's something about the way he looked and his eyes. I don't like it, because kids can see when there's something about a person and they know. And I really hate when adults don't see, don't listen. It's one thing when a kid is just like, they don't like a person because they want their parent all to themselves. But it's something when a kid is saying it's something about this person, I get a weird feeling around him or her. You know, you need to take that into consideration. Well, are they looking at you weird, or what's going on? Did they touch you, or, you know, or something? You got to listen. And he was buying me all these gifts, and I didn't want to take them. And she would make me take the gifts, and I was like, I don't want these gifts. And I was like, why is he buying me this stuff? I don't need it. I don't, you know. My daddy left me such and such. You know, my dad bought me a car when I was like 10. I don't want, and I couldn't even, you know, I was driving at 9. But, you know, he was like, when you get your license, you'll have a car or whatever. So I'm gonna teach you how to drive this car, blah, 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 whatever. So I was like, why? I don't need you. Bye. I was that, you know, he taught me to be strong-minded, to be independent. So I just didn't understand why this man was trying to come in here throwing stuff around, because I was spoiled. My daddy kept money in my pocket. So I just didn't understand this person coming in off the street trying to do whatever. So anyway, so he was trying to groom me, and I was not having it. And my mama made me take this stuff. And so he felt like, I guess he was winning. I was just like, ugh, whatever. But anyway, so, you know, from 12 to 16, that was going on. So I finally told her about it at 28. She stayed with him. So I ended up moving from, I was living in Mississippi at the time, because I was born here in Florida. Lived in Florida till I was about 10. And then we moved to Mississippi because my adopted father was from Mississippi. He wanted me to be around his family, you know, part of my childhood. So we lived there. And then I came back to Florida because I was like, I don't want to live here anymore. I had just broken up with a guy I had been with for years. And I was like, I don't want to, I want a new start. I gotta leave. I just couldn't stand it. So I left. And then she was acting like she was all tore up. I know why you're leaving. Well, you could have fixed that, you know? And she didn't. So I left. And so after I moved here, got myself set up, got together or whatever, she calls me out the blue one day and said that they had been in basically a brawl at the church. Said the church, people at the church, which, you know, I grew up in that church basically, they had basically told them off and said that she was the reason that I left the church and, you know, the state, because she had allowed him to do what he did to me, X, Y, and Z. And, you know, and she called me telling me, how dare they do that? They were taking up for me, and she called me to tell me, how dare they take up for me? Do you know how that made me feel? And I just was like, I didn't know what to say. So I just hung up. You know, I was just like, why would you do that? So I knew then I had to go to therapy because I feel like that was my breaking point. So I went to therapy, did weeks of therapy because I was just like, I don't know what else to do. Because, I mean, I wasn't suicidal or nothing like that. I just was like, you know, I have no more capacity to handle any more of this foolishness. And this, you know, I'm leaving out a lot of stuff, so many things. But I'm just giving you the gist of the story. So that's the, you know, so come to find out years after that, maybe 3 years ago, she had told, because people were starting to ask down here, my family in Florida was starting to ask, well, why don't you, you know, your mom comes out here and you never come around. We don't ever see you. Because I do my own thing, you know. I'm off to myself, living my own life. I'm not in the mess, in the whatever, you know. If I happen to see y'all, hey, how y'all doing? Great, love you, take care. And so I finally just told them, you know, and they were like, well, she told us you don't come around because you asked her for some money and she told you no. will work 12 jobs before I ask am person for am dollar. And I did say am. I'm not that person. I'm not that girl. I will never. I'm not that. I'm just not. I will bust my ass, and I mean bust it wide open out here working 15 jobs if I have to make it happen for myself. I'm very independent. I don't ask anybody for anything. You know what I'm saying? It's very hard for me to ask anybody for anything. I do me. You know. Child, they could be ready to pull out half of my lung, telling me all you gotta do is ask your friend for half of theirs, and they're a perfect match. I'm not gonna do it. If I can function without it, I'll be fine. Ask the Lord, thank you, Jesus, and go on. You know, I'm not gonna do it. And for her to have been telling people that, you know, and I was just like, why would you be telling people a lie? So, I mean, it's just the constant lie, because she is more concerned about how she looks to people rather than the truth. And I'm not that person. I don't care if you know the truth, a lie, or what. Because I'm going to live my life and do what I'm going to live for me. You know, it's between me and God. Because when I get ready to leave this earth, it's all about how I live for Him. You know, did I please the Lord? You know, did I live in the glory of God? Not about how anybody else was pleased with me. And so I just did not. It's a lot of trauma, but it never stopped me from continue to be a good person to anybody. It never stopped me from being able to communicate with people or being in a relationship. And the only problem I ever had, and when I went to therapy, I was able to resolve that and to see the error of my ways. Because when I was younger and I was in my early 20s, late teens, I had a real bad problem with control. Because I was so used to seeing her being controlled by her husband that I was like, I'd be damned if anybody gonna control me. I was like, honey, sass pot. Who you hollering at? Who you talking to? You know, you're not gonna do that. So I just was like, I had real trouble with that. So I had to, you know, go through the motions, not say the motions, but I had to go through that in therapy and work that out, because I was so hard on and wanted to, you know, not be controlled that I was controlling. You know, not saying I was, you know, bossing people around, but I just was like dead set on not being controlled, and that I became, you know, pushing people away, basically. So, but I was able to resolve that, and, you know, and I learned, you know, either you're gonna be here or you're not gonna be here. Either you're gonna treat me right or you're not gonna treat me right. And if we can't compromise and come to a consensus in a relationship, then we just can't be together. And it is what it is. And once I learned that, then I was all right. But what I've been learning, though, with dating, once men find out, not all men, let me say that, but when some guys find out that I've been through the trauma that I've been through, they don't want to date me. And that's okay, because I feel as if, you know, they're not strong enough. Because it does take a strong person. And it's not like, I don't know what they're thinking. I know what they're thinking. Well, I don't. Because I don't want to speak on their behalf, because I don't know. It's not like they tell me, well, I don't want to date you because X, Y, and Z. They've never said why. It's just, they ghost. They just disappear or whatever. I don't know. But it does hurt It does. So when you have gone through trauma like that, and you tell them, once you do reveal that to a person, and then they just ghost you or whatever, it really does sting. It stings. It hurts so bad when somebody does that to you, because you're just like, I should have never said anything. But you have to be honest. You have to be honest. You have to, not be yourself. You gotta tell somebody. If y'all come to that point, you can't go 4 years and never tell a person, because first of all, you're gonna be with somebody. You have to, you have to learn your triggers. And that's the thing when I said you have to go to therapy, because therapy is going to teach you your triggers. For me, it's smells. I have like 3 or 4 words that I don't want to hear it. I don't. I may not do this or nothing like that, but internally I'm just screaming like F-bombs going off in my head, because I'm just like, I don't want to hear it. I'm literally probably about to run in front of a bus in my head. But you need to learn those things, and therapy will help you do that. And when I was going through therapy, there were many nights when I could not sleep, because my mind was constantly running, replaying scenes. And when you have trauma, your memory gets suppressed. And still now, I have a pretty good memory, like long-term memory. But I know sometimes with the trauma, you forget things. But therapy helps you bring up things that you otherwise forgot, because the trauma overlaid all that stuff. And because you have to go back, you have to do these assignments where you have to go back and figure out what caused you to feel this way. Go back in your mind and go back in all your memories and figure out what made you feel this way, what caused you to do this, what caused this and that, blah blah blah. And so when you do those exercises, it's just like, dang. And so whenever my mind would race at night, my therapist was like, what you need to do is you need to get out a piece of paper, get your journal book, and write whatever is in your mind. Get it down on paper. And that's how I started to have a calm mind. So those are some things you can try for if you having like racing thoughts at night and stuff like that. Write it down. Get all that stuff out of your mind, because then you write it down. If it don't make any sense, so what? You just have to get it out. But that trauma is very, a lot of people have trauma. It may not be sexual abuse trauma. It may be something else completely different. Trauma is trauma. Trauma is trauma. And a lot of people have it. You are not the only person. Trust me. Some people grew up in a house with domestic violence. Absent parent. I'm not only did I have sexual abuse trauma as as an adolescent and a teenager, I was a latchkey kid when I was tiny. I was fine, from like 5 to however old. I was getting off the school bus by myself, going in there, fixing me something to eat, watching TV, didn't let nobody in, because I knew, back in the 80s, we could do everything. These kids nowadays, baby, they ain't got no type of freedom, none, 0. Honey, DCF was just like, no, you can't do that, no, you can't do that, you can't do this. But back in the day, in the 80s, 90s, honey, we was doing it all, child. But anyway, back to the trauma. So, but those are things. That's just the things. These are my thoughts that I'm thinking about. These are the things that I've been just processing. So I don't know if any of this video makes any sense. It's hard to kind of stay on topic because your mind just is doing this all the time when you're talking about trauma. It's doing all of this. You know, I'm not licensed yet. I'm working on it. I graduate in May. But these are the things that I'm, you know, that this is just the intro video. This is not a one subject thing. This is just an intro video to tell you about kind of like my story and just what kind of, I'm just glazing over stuff. But when I get into a video where I'm just talking about one thing, then we'll stay on topic. But anyway, so I just wanted to tell y'all that. But if you have any questions, let me know. If you have a subject that you want me to address, I will do that, because I'm pretty well versed on a lot of that stuff. Domestic violence, power control, a lot of things. I'm well versed in it. Let me know. But anyways, guys, I need to go. I gotta do some work. I just wanted to take a break real quick and kind of get this video out and tell you guys about me and some of my story. I love you. You are loved. Whatever you're doing, be good or be good at it. And I will see you guys next time. Bye.